Hello, everybody. It's Lenny Murphy with another edition of the CEO series of interviews. Thank you for taking time out of your day to spend it with myself and my guest. And this has been another interview that we've had to scramble back and forth and reschedule multiple times. So I'm really glad that it's finally happening. Today, I'm joined by Adhithi Aji, CEO of Adri. Welcome, Adhithi. How are you?
Good, Lenny, and thanks for being so patient and thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to chatting with you on this podcast.
I hope that you feel that way when we're done. So
For sure.
Oh, it's great to have you. And just for the audience, I didn't realize that Aditi had been in India, and I had scheduled this some ungodly, terrible time originally for India. So now you're back in the U.S. This is a more kind time. So glad that you forgave me for for that first round.
I'm productive in the night, so it wasn't too bad. But I'm glad we got this on an early morning.
Yeah.
Relatively early,
Yes.
speaking of which.
Yeah.
But yeah, anytime for you, Lenny. It's always a
Oh. Well, thank you. So, for those who don't know, why don't you talk a little bit about your background? Tell us about you, and then we can talk about AdRich to kind of set the stage.
Absolutely. So a little about me. Originally from India, I came to the States now been over 15 years, and a little bit of my background. Started as an electrical engineer by profession. So being in the tech world predominantly, and I was part of corporates like Robert Bosch and Alcatel-Lucent in the automotive and telecom space. So the cruise controls you see in the cars today, I was part of the R&D teams building that. And that's where I saw the power of technology, the power of sensors. And fast forward, I got bored of just being tech and behind computers. I wanted to be more with people. So wanted to be on the business forefront of technology. So got my MBA in supply chain management, and came to the US to study in Carnegie Mellon, specializing in innovation management, which is how do you take high-end research technologies and bring it to market so it makes technology useful and also helps businesses. After which I worked in corporate America, again in the tech world as a product manager. And I was part of product strategy in companies like Siemens and cloud computing. And honestly, there is where I saw a big gap. And that's also the genesis of how Adrich started. Now, during my time as a product manager in the tech world, I understood that in tech, we get access to usage data. We know how our servers are used, how our apps are built, where the traffic to a website is coming. And that really helped me personally understand my customers, understand their needs, and build better products suited to their needs. But when you come to CPG or consumer products or any physical product for that matter, that last mile of usage data is missing. There's a lot of data up until the purchase. But once it leaves the store, it's sort of a black box, right? Like, how are consumers using my products? And a lot of it is gut based, which is where we are like, oh, they might be interacting this way, so let me build this product this way. But if we actually had consumption and usage and actual data on how consumers are using the product, that would be powerful for brand managers and the whole ecosystem of CPG, because we're closing that holy grail of last mile missing data and getting them one step closer to the consumer. So the mission for Adrich became as to how to take that data-driven approach from the tech world and provide it to CPG. And that's how a bit of my background came together. So we said, why not make the products intelligent enough and smart enough to talk and tell the brands how, when, and where they're being used. And so bringing my experience from sensors in the tech world to product management from tech, bringing that whole data-driven approach from tech to CPG and helping brand managers and other players in the ecosystem with real-time usage data and real-time interaction with the consumers to build better products, to kind of elevate the experience and really close the information gap in the last mile. So that's really how my background and the genesis of AdRich happened.
That's uh, you may be the first electrical engineer that I've ever interviewed who came here through that path, but it certainly makes sense, especially considering the AdRich product. And let's talk about that for a minute. So you kind of hinted at it, but just to be clear, it is a sensor that goes on a product to help measure consumption, and the core use case would be kind of in-home product testing and consumption diaries, that type of use case where you're understanding how many times people are utilizing the coffee creamer, that type of thing. So really it's a kind of the Internet of Things concept, right? Where did you originally think about replenishment and supply chain and how connect to a shopping app and would say that you've used these products and then found this other research use case? Is that
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as with any sort of new idea, we had a couple of applications with the technology, right? It's a platform, like you said, Lenny. It's a smart label that you peel and stick onto any product. It can be post-production, and it becomes smart. And it tracks consumption data. So to the accuracy of the time of use, to the minute of use, how long you've used, how much you've used, to the granularity of ml of each use. So that's the level of accuracy we bring in terms of consumption data, and also remove all the false positives. So if you just move around the product, it doesn't pick up that data. Our core was to give accurate usage data and also enable in the moment feedback. So to close the recall gap with consumers, we are enabling, let's say on first use, you want to understand the scent of the product, or did the consumer have any challenges opening the product? So we have these in the moment built-in triggers where you can ask the consumer surveys. It's a quick 30-second survey, and you close the recall gap. So both of that, the consumption data and the in-the-moment surveys, gives a 360-degree view of consumer behavior, real consumer behavior, where you're able to not only get how they're interacting with the product and what is the data saying, but why as well, because you're getting qualitative. So in a way to talk of it, it's a marriage between iHut in terms of the logistics. So you just send out these labels, either consumers can apply it or anyone can apply it, and it becomes smart, and they download an app and it connects, and it's unbiased usage. So it automatically streams consumers use the product as they normally would. But we also bring the depth of ethnography, because you're now able to understand core intricate behaviors without having people to go. So it is the depth of ethnography, but call it iHut 2.0, pretty much, in that it automates diary entries, it automates journal entries, and it also allows for in-the-moment feedback. So really two value propositions there. One, you're getting the accuracy beyond self-reported data, which, because it is a sensor, it's technology, it's capturing actual usage and eliminating all false positives. But you're not losing out on qualitative, because it's in the moment surveys and it closes the recall gap, and you get a full surround picture of what's happening and how consumers are interacting with your product. So that is market research and consumer research has been one of our biggest use cases of the technology. And that's where predominantly most of our brand customers are using today. And we have research partners partnering with us along with their brand partners in market today. And we've rolled out about 25,000 units to date, and it's a patented technology.
Okay. Very cool. Very cool. And now, have you, obviously the benefits for kind of pre-AI are obvious. Have you seen a a uptick in kind of interest or thinking about use cases now that we are in this era of data convergence and synthesis powered by AI?
Absolutely. I think AI has taken over the world. It's clear. That said,
Well, hopefully not fully, right?
not
The
fully. That's where I was coming, right? AI is as good as the data set feeding into AI is, right? You have to be careful what you're feeding in, because that becomes a foundation. And I think Adrich plays a part in that piece where the data doesn't exist today. Consumption data sort of exists. It exists more in terms of journal entries and a little bit in terms of possibly social media and things like that, where it's not a very structured data set. And Adrich comes in to give a structured consumption data set, which is accurate, and we take a lot of effort in making sure the data that comes with from our sensors is very accurate with our calibrations. From there on, now that you have a foundation accurate structured consumption data set, imagine what can be done, because the data is so accurate. Now you can overlay weather. So we have now done research studies where it's longitudinal and seasonality, where weather impacts consumption and how it impacts consumption and why. So those are layers on top of consumption data that you can bring in point of sale data and see sales versus consumption. You can see how events impact consumption. So you can bring your whole marketing data set on this, and really, so it as you grow this data set in terms of one having a very accurate consumption data set and overlaying it with others, it's natural for AI to evolve on this layer of data sets, because now you're bringing a lot of structure into it, and AI is as good as the data you feed in. And so I think a number of other use cases are coming up in terms of how can you change marketing in real time with hyper personalized marketing, because consumption at the individual unit level, at the individual household level. So that's the power of where IoT meets AI. And Adrich has seen that evolving. We originally started only as IoT. There was no AI. But as we started seeing the patterns around the data, we use AI to determine volume remaining, because we started seeing patterns in the data that could actually help us get to volume remaining without weighing scales, without introducing the bias. So we do use AI there, but we are also starting to see patterns when you interlay data sets, and AI, I think there will be powerful, where you can almost predict marketing campaigns, and you can also increase ROI on marketing and product development as well, to sort of intuitively give ideas on new products and understand what development features are really impacting consumer experience. So those are areas where I think new new use cases with AI will develop.
Yeah, that's fascinating, right? And the combination of kind of real world usage, the sensor component with the additional data sets to drive more value creation and insight. What an interesting world we live in right now.
For sure. It's a dream, but it's definitely fascinating. By the hour, our time becomes more precious, and technology is trying to automate things to give us our time back.
Yeah. All right, so let's switch gears a little bit. Let's talk about you, because you are somewhat of a rarity, a female tech founder, especially something that kind of hard tech is the way I think about things like labels. So talk about just your journey as a founder, and what's that been like?
Yeah, thank you, Lenny. I mean, certainly an acknowledgement. I really appreciate that, especially coming from you. I think, yes, it is a small subset. And I think things are changing, though. I hope so, because I think my journey as a female founder um, has been quite a journey in that it's not without challenges. For sure, the stats say um, only 2% of women raise VC funding, venture capital funding. And that is a pretty crazy stat given, the amount of VC funding that our counterparts get. That said, I think at the end of the day, as much as we can do our work and the work speaks for itself, that's been my kind of mantra, if you will, that there is a lot of noise out there. And yes, it is a fact that possibly women founders have to work 10x harder
Hmm.
to get the same reward, right, that our counterparts get. uh, but it's changing, and I was part of in India, actually, and part of Thai Global. I was representing women entrepreneurship in India, where the global finals were, and we had 40 other women founders on stage pitching, and Adri kind of won an award, so that was exciting. But what was more exciting for me is how women entrepreneurs had come together on stage and how we were a community helping out each other. I think that's powerful. Plus, I was amazed to see the amount of support we were getting as other VCs, and there are now funds which help women founded companies. And I think women in tech also is improving. There is stats out there where a lot of more women are enrolling into STEM programs. And I think while the macro trends are changing, I think that'll be in favor for us. But I do believe that as long as our work speaks, and it'll take a bit of a time, but I do feel that will come around and help more women get into STEM or just start companies. I think it's a very fulfilling journey, to say the least. Despite all the challenges, you are sort of following your passion, but that keeps me going. The fact that every day I'm helping one brand or one person or anyone with some amount of usage data, whatever we provide to be able to do their job better, that keeps me going. And our customers validate everything that we do, so that also keeps me going. So I really seek validation and appreciation from the market, especially because we're changing the status quo. I think innovation at the core of it is about changing status quo, and having a disruptive innovation that always drives me. So those are some facets that keeps me going. And yeah, talking to people like you who support us along the way really helps us.
Well, in some small way, but definitely the validation from the market is is the best part. I'd agree. Any it I think it's shifting as well, and that's great. As far as the kind of composition of the market. Um, Lessons that you would pass on to other kind of emerging founders, and especially female founders or immigrant founders or whatever the case may be, right? You cover a lot of different constituencies. That's really fantastic. So wisdom that you would pass on to say, hey, keep this in mind as you progress.
Yeah, I'd say it came out of the graduation speech at Carnegie Mellon when I graduated, and the one sentence that stays with me to date is embrace uncertainty. Embrace uncertainty, which I think is the foundation of entrepreneurship. Every day you're changing challenges and you're facing new challenges, which at the end of the day is you're able to come up with creative solutions. So embracing uncertainty and taking that first step. I know it's scary, but actually taking the first step, you don't need to see the full picture. You just take the baby steps, it will unravel by itself. And looking back, I think there were a lot of times, like, getting the first customer, getting the first investor. Those were milestones. It did take a lot to reach that, but at the end of the day, I think just jumping in, take that first step, and trusting that the rest will unravel by itself is what kind of helped me get started, because I was in corporate, I was working, and taking the plunge into entrepreneurship was a bit of a scary move.
Yeah.
But that said, having taken that step, haven't looked back. Now there are days where I am like, oh wow, why am I doing this? There are days like that.
Right, right, right.
It comes around, because I think the second big point I would say is choose something that you're passionate about, and choose something that you have a core competence in, because you have a million other variables that you don't know. But if you choose something that you're really good at, as a core, like for me, the tech was the core, and I knew I wanted to start something in tech. So something with your core competence, and then you will find people who will fill the gaps which are not your core competence, and that's how it becomes a company from a concept. So that those are two things I would say. One is embrace uncertainty, and two is choose something in your core competence so your passion keeps pulling you back when things don't go as planned.
Uh, that's great. And the wisdom, I think, in my own life as well, that would apply, and especially the embracing uncertainty. It's
Yeah.
um, we live in a strange world, and sometimes that also means there's unexpected, like, oh, holy crap, what was that? But often turns into, oh wow, that was really cool, right? If this these circumstances had not manifested, life would be very different. And often I tell my kids, like, Dad, did you plan on doing what you do for a living? Like, no, no, nope. life life has taken me in massively different directions than I'd ever envisioned, and I would have been selling myself short
Right.
uh, if the things that I thought originally were going to go that way. It would
Mhm.
be, yeah, life would be worse in many ways than it is today. So
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you connect the dots in retrospective, you kind of know then, okay, this is why things happen the way it happened. Although at that point in time, you would be like, why is this happening this way? I had planned another way. So
yeah,
I think it comes back to, things happen for a reason, and eventually it all works out.
it does. It does. Uh, this has been just a wonderful conversation, and I knew it was going to be, and I'm glad that I was right. So earlier in the beginning, we thought, all right, are you still going to think it was, that you were glad you were doing this? I am glad that we did this. So
Thank
hope,
you. That means a lot, Lenny, coming from you especially. So made my day there.
oh, all right, I'm blushing now. Is there anything that you wanted to cover that we did not?
I guess you touched upon many topics that I think, for one, entrepreneurship and our offering to the research industry. I do say that with technology now, with things progressing the way it is, I do feel that the industry, whether it's research or CPG at large, or physical products for that matter, it can be pharmacy and other healthcare. I do think technology can really help augment a lot of things that we're doing, and it's not necessarily in a bad way. It is automating certain things. Yes, human judgment is always needed, but I would encourage to try out new things, like, challenge the status quo. I think that will be something that must be done fairly soon enough, because the trends are showing that, not just on the technology side, but consumers are changing, right? Consumers are expecting beyond that physical attributes of a product, whether it's the taste, the scent, the packaging. It's beyond that. Now they want an experience around the interaction of products. And I think that's a big shift in consumer needs. And that's where technology will play a role. And specifically starting from understanding what the shift is and understanding the real consumer behavior behind it. And I think that's where things like our technology and AI will help uh, kind of get us to what is really happening, cut out the noise, and take a very data driven approach to new innovations, whether it's coming up with new products or white space or even flagship products, making sure they are still meeting consumer needs. So I would say, I think the one thing that I would want to ask is challenge status quo, adopt new technologies, and really see how you can leverage that to really go beyond a day-to-day job, and understand how you can really meet your consumer needs, because those are also changing, post COVID, but also from general generational patterns, and Gen Zs and the next generations are not the same. So there are a lot of changes happening, and I think it's a wonderful time to be where the culmination of technology, consumer needs changing, and for CPG at large, the industry is changing, and I'm happy to have worked with a lot of innovators, and I would love to see more innovators out there to kind of partner with us and go to market together, and see the world changing and making a difference out
Uh,
there.
Well, on that note, then how can people reach you? So
Yeah.
you can build this community of innovators, and how can they connect with you?
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, I'm available on LinkedIn, approachable. Also, I have the website. Our website is www.adrich.io, ADRICH. So yeah, those are two easy ways to get hold of me. And yeah, LinkedIn has been the best way to reach out.
Right. Aditi, this has been wonderful. Thank you for taking the time. Really impressed by all that you've done, and impressed in advance by what you're going to accomplish. If there is any other way that we can be helpful, then just let us know.
Sure, absolutely, Lenny. And again, thank you for having me, and it was a pleasure to talk to you as always.
Well, thank you, and you as well. And that is it for this edition of the CEO series. Thank you to our producers, to our editors, to our sponsors, and most of all, to our listeners. We'll be back again with another edition real soon. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.